we realize that no one can say the final words about Mama Lou because we will be talking about her for the rest of our lives. Word my mouth to now lift the spirits of this family.
Have you ever been at a funeral and heard something so unexpected? It made you pause even through your tears and ask, wait, did he really just say that? That's exactly what happened at the memorial service for gospel legend Della Reid. People came ready for gentle words and sweet memories, the usual kind of tribute. But when Reverend Jesse Jackson stepped up to speak, he didn't go the usual route. He took it somewhere deeper. His words didn't just touch hearts, they stopped the room. Some gasped. Some started weeping all over again. And some people looked around like, did he really just go there? Yes, he did. And honestly, it needed to be said. This wasn't some speech full of drama for no reason. Jesse wasn't chasing attention or trying to stir things up.
The final farewell for Chicago gospel music legend Dr. Della Reid. Her wake and celebration of life featured powerful memories and music.
No, what he said came from the soul. It was real, raw, and long overdue. He didn't just praise Della's voice or her choir arrangements. He honored her power, her leadership, her influence, and the sacrifices she made without ever asking for the spotlight. He said out loud what so many had been thinking for years, but were too afraid or too polite to voice. Della Reid carried the church. She didn't just direct the music, she shaped the sound of a generation. She moved people spiritually. And the sad truth, she often went unrecognized while others got the applause. That kind of honesty hit different, especially coming from someone like Jesse Jackson. This wasn't just a public figure making a polished statement.
It was an experience, and she was always saying something at a time she wasn't supposed to be saying anything. She was known for these outbursts. She just, whenever she felt that she wanted to say something, it was going to be said, whether she had the microphone or not. She was always saying whatever she wanted to say, whenever she wanted to say it. She was an experience. She was a vibe.
This was a civil rights icon, someone who had walked with Martin Luther King Jr., someone who had shared real-life history with Della, someone who knew her not just as a name on a program, but as a sister in the struggle. To understand why Jesse's words shook the room so deeply, we need to talk about Della Reid, not just the woman, but the legacy. Della wasn't just a choir director. She was the music. She had a presence that could change the whole atmosphere of a room. Raised by Reverend Clay Evans, a powerful voice in both the church and the civil rights movement, Della followed a different path. Her father delivered the sermons, but she brought the sound to life. While he preached fire from the pulpit, she set that fire to music. Back then, women weren't usually handed microphones, especially not to lead. The gospel world was full of male voices, male pastors, male musicians.
Just think it's slightly unfair that she didn't get to make it to her birthday.
But Della didn't wait for permission. She stepped into leadership with quiet strength and undeniable talent. At Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church on Chicago's South Side, she began building choirs that people still talk about today. These weren't just church choirs, they were spiritual powerhouses. She took old hymns and gave them new breath. She created arrangements that made grown people cry, shout, and fall to their knees. Her choirs could rise like thunder or soften into a whisper without missing a beat. The way she shaped harmony felt like she was sculpting heaven itself. But Della never treated it like a show. She always said, if you're not prayed up, you can't sing up. That was her rule. For her, gospel music wasn't performance. It was ministry. It was about healing souls, not hitting notes. And that ministry didn't stop with one church. Her arrangements influenced the Chicago Mass Choir, the Soul Children of Chicago, and even modern-day megachurch choirs. Many of the award-winning gospel artists and choir directors we know today, they either learned under Della, studied her recordings, or were taught by someone who did. Her fingerprints are everywhere. Yet, outside of Chicago, many people never knew her name. Why? Because she wasn't on magazine covers. She wasn't out promoting albums or doing interviews. She was busy serving. Too often, the credit went to others. People clapped for her father, not realizing Della was the one keeping the choir alive, training singers, and shaping the entire sound. That's why Jesse's tribute didn't just feel emotional, it felt necessary. He didn't sugarcoat her legacy. He gave her the truth she deserved. Picture the funeral, a packed church, full choirs in their robes, music filling the space, tissues wiping tears. Emotions were already high. Then Jesse Jackson takes the podium. People are expecting kind words, maybe a short speech. But he leans into the mic and starts calling out what the church too often overlooks. He said women like Della carried the church on their backs for years leading worship, lifting spirits, training choirs, all without titles, without pay, and often without recognition. Then he dropped a line that stopped everyone cold. He called her the unpaid pastor behind the pulpit. That sentence, it rang through the room like a bell. Some folks were stunned. Some nodded through their tears. A few even looked uncomfortable, but almost everyone agreed he was telling the truth. Della might not have held the official title of pastor, but she ministered through song in a way that changed lives. That moment, you could hear the shift in the room. The silence got thick, like the air itself was holding its breath. Then slowly, soft amens began to ripple through the church. People were feeling it. Jesse had tapped into something real, something long buried. He was honoring Della, yes, but he was also speaking for every woman who had done the hard, holy work without ever being seen. And what made it even more powerful? This wasn't coming from a stranger. Jesse Jackson wasn't just a public figure showing up for a service. He knew Della personally. Their paths had crossed again and again, from Chicago rallies to gospel conventions to community organizing events. Their bond was rooted in real-life ministry. Della grew up during a time of revolution. Her father, Reverend Clay Evans, was a soldier for justice, a preacher who walked with Dr. King and stood up when it wasn't safe. Jesse Jackson stood beside him in those early days. While Jesse marched and spoke on stages, Della stayed in the church, holding down the spiritual front lines. Don't think for a second that just because she wasn't out protesting, she wasn't in the fight. Della's choirs provided sanctuary during chaos. Those Sunday services weren't just routines. They were places where weary people found hope. Her music helped people believe again when the world gave them every reason not to. She built choirs with discipline. She demanded spiritual preparation. She prayed over her singers like a general praying over soldiers. And even as the world outside raged with racism, violence, and struggle, her choirs never missed a beat. Fast forward to the 70s and 80s, and you'll still see Jesse Jackson and Della showing up at the same events. The photos, the recordings, they tell the story. They weren't just church acquaintances. They were part of the same movement. So when Jesse stood up to speak at her funeral, his words came with the weight of history. He had seen what she gave. He had watched her pour herself out for the church, year after year without complaint. That's why when Jesse said, when Della left the choir stand, the sound of heaven had to adjust. You could almost hear the angels pause. It wasn't just poetic. It was spiritual truth. He wasn't saying she was just talented. He was saying she was chosen anointed. Her presence brought something into the room that even heaven had to acknowledge. That line? It sent chills through the pews. Every person who had ever stood under her direction, every voice she had trained, every note she'd shaped, they felt it. They knew it. Because when someone like Della steps away, it doesn't just leave silence. It leaves a space no one else can fill. Then, right before Jesse stepped down from the pulpit, he turned to the choir and said, "Tell her choir, she still hears you, so keep singing, like she's right there." That moment, it broke people. Not in a bad way. In the way that reminds you of how deep love can go. People cried openly. Choir members on stage couldn't hold it together. Some wept into their hands. Some just swayed in silence, letting the weight of it all wash over them. Because in that moment, it didn't feel like a funeral anymore. It felt like revival. like one last Sunday under Della's direction. It was powerful, and it was holy. Jesse didn't come to play church politics. He wasn't there to say nice things and sit down. He came to tell the truth about a woman who gave her life to serving God through music. He called her what she really was, a spiritual architect, a mother of gospel, a silent leader who built something massive without needing credit. So if you've ever been touched by gospel music, if you've ever sat in a pew and felt your soul rise with a choir song, if you've ever been healed or lifted by the sound of Chicago gospel, then you've been touched by Della Reid. Whether you knew her name or not, her spirit reached you. Her story matters. Her name deserves to be remembered. And if you agree, share this story. Tag someone who needs to hear it. Drop your favorite Della moment in the comments. Let's flood this space with love for the woman who gave everything so we could feel something. She may be gone from the stage, but trust me, she's not silent. She's just moved to a higher platform. And from the balcony of heaven, she's still listening. So sing like she's right there, because in spirit, she is. If Della's music ever moved you, don't let her legacy fade. Share this video, drop a comment, and tag someone who needs to hear her story. Let's keep her name alive, loud and proud. Because even from heaven, she's still listening. Keep singing like she's right there with you.